call meeting to order. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. As I find my agenda here for regular meeting for March 11th. We call the meeting to order. Mr. Brown, would you please conduct a roll call?
Certainly. Mr. Castine. Present. Mr. Conroy.
Here.
Mr. Dane.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Potiker.
Here.
Mr. Rosenquist.
Here.
Mr. Timmons.
Here.
And Ms. Waldron.
Here.
All present, we have a quorum.
All legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes for February 26, 2020, regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Carries.
I'd like to proclaim, we have a proclamation here to be for this evening, and I'd like to proclaim on behalf of the legislature, I'd like to proclaim April 25th, 2020 as Clinton County Cleanup Day. Be it resolved, the Clinton County Legislature hereby proclaims Saturday, April 25th, 2020 as Clinton County Cleanup Day, the culmination of the week's Earth Day events, and a day the Clinton County Legislature encourages people to come together in their local communities to engage in activities to improve their local environments. Dated the 11th day of March, 2020 at Plattsburgh, New York, under my hand, Mark Henry, Chairperson, Clinton County Legislature. At this time, I'd like to invite Legislator Timmons and Jesse Cote, the recipient of the Off-Track Betting Scholarship, to the podium to receive his check.
I would like to present the 2019 Off-Track Betting Scholarship Award in the amount of $500 to Jesse Cote. Jesse is a 2019 graduate of Peru High School and has completed his first semester at Clinton Community College. While in high school, Jesse was the lead actor in the 2017 award-winning Lip Dub Mannequin Challenge, an anti-bullying video, as part of the I Stand Against Bullying Student Video Awards by Champlain Valley Educational Services. Jesse has performed in 12 Peru musical theater productions since 7th grade, including lead roles in Newsies and Rock of Ages. Jesse, congratulations on receiving the OTB Scholarship Award and on a successful school year at Clinton Community College.
We'll be looking for a 10-minute speech from you, Jesse.
Not on top of my head.
I think he's escaping. At this time, I'd like to invite Legislator Waldron in Hometown Hero Hunter Church to the podium to receive his plaque congratulating him on capturing the bronze medal.
Well,
Cool.
Hunter, I haven't seen you in almost a year.
Yeah, 7 months maybe?
I know Hunter very well. He is like the all-American North Country kid, and I couldn't be more proud for his moment away from us. He has a beautiful family and hardworking. He's my bartender in the summertime. Not afraid of good hard work too. So it is with my great pleasure to read this to you. Whereas, congratulating hometown hero Hunter Church on capturing the bronze medal in the World Cup bobsled tour. Whereas, excellence and success in competitive sports can be achieved only through strenuous practice, maintaining a rigorous training regimen, mental and physical discipline, and a dedicated coaching staff. And whereas, it is in the sense of this legislative body to recognize and honor outstanding young people from Clinton County who demonstrate the qualities that lead to success in athletics and in life. And in doing, bring great pride to their community. And attendant to such concern and in full accord with longstanding tradition, the Clinton County Legislature is justly proud to congratulate Hunter Church in piloting USA bronze medal winning sled at the BMW IBSF World Cup 4-man bobsled event held in Innsbruck, Austria, with a combined 2-run time of 1:42:30. And whereas this achievement was the first international medal for the United States men's bobsled team since 2017. Whereas 23-year-old Hunter Church is a resident of Katyville, New York, and graduated from Saranac Central School. He was first introduced to bobsledding at the age of 7 by his father and has been fully invested in the sport since that time. Whereas Hunter is loyally and enthusiastically supported by family, fans, friends, and the community at large, who have all sacrificed to make him so successful and achieve this prestigious honor. And whereas sports competition instills the values of pride and accomplishment, and Hunter Church has clearly made contribution to the spirit of excellence, which has always been the hallmark of international competition. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Clinton County Legislature pause in its deliberations to publicly congratulate Hunter Church on this monumental achievement and wishes him well in his efforts to achieve further successes. And be it further resolved, a copy of this resolution suitably engrossed be transmitted to Hunter Church so that it can be displayed as further evidence of his athletic prowess.
Well, first of all, I heard you offered 10 minutes. So do I get 20 since he cut out on his?
I'll tell you why you get 20.
Okay. No, I don't want to hold up too much time.
I'll give you 20, and it's because you're shady roots.
Well, first of all, I want to start off by thanking everyone here for passing this resolution and recognizing my accomplishments from this year. It was an unbelievable year for myself, and only hopefully the first stepping stone for a long career, and having the opportunity to represent the North Country to the best of my ability. I grew up in the Olympic region, and I never really expected myself to be so immersed in the Olympic legacy that touches the far reaches of the North Country. And as a 12-year-old beginning in the sport, the Olympic dream was never really a goal of mine. The only thing that I really cared for was to have fun and to maybe earn some medals along the way. But as I continued to grow in the sport and continued to climb up through the ranks, I started to realize that this Olympic legacy that this region has was going to leave an everlasting impact on me. While some have dove headfirst into the sport, like skeleton, I decided to jump in, and from there, the sport has taken me to the far reaches of the world and some of the greatest heights and lows that I've ever, I could ever imagine. Since I have found this sport, I've strove for goals much further than Olympic dreams. One of those biggest goals has been to inspire those around me, particularly the youth in this area, and to hopefully allow them to know that any dream is possible, no matter how crazy or outlandish it may be. And even when those who are around you may doubt you, or those may tell you it's time to give up, as long as you're persistent, you persevere, and you have a passion for what you're doing, I fully believe that you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. 1 year ago, actually close to the day, I was told my time in this sport would be over. I was asked to politely retire, and within 2 months of that note being told to me, I was the highest finisher on our World Cup circuit, qualifying for my first World Championships. And a year later, through hard work and perseverance, I ended up ranked 5th overall in the world out of an 8-race series. I'm currently our #1 U.S. pilot in the country, and one of our medal favorites heading into the 2002 Olympics. And of course, my biggest accomplishment to date was that bronze medal that I earned in Eagles, Austria, which I'll never forget that moment and just how hard that I've worked for that moment my whole life, and the opportunity to get to share that not only with my teammates, my coaches, but also with the North Country here. So moving forward, I hope to continue to represent the North Country the best way that I know how, which is going out there and having fun, doing what I love, maybe earning some more medals along the way. But I hope to represent you well moving into the 2022 Olympics. And again, thank you for this resolution. I'm very grateful.
Well done.
Very well done. Congratulations, everyone. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the legislature. Please raise your hand if you wish to be recognized. State your name and address for the record. And in accordance with the rules of order, all speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to address the legislature at this time? Anyone at all? Last chance. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Mr. Brown reminded me. I didn't need reminding, though. Just
As it turns out.
y'all don't have to stay here for the rest of this. If I were you, I wouldn't.
As exciting as this meeting is.
So if you want to go, now's the time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna go have dinner.
Okay. So, those speakers. Moving on. We will go to the committee reports. Each legislator chairs one of the 10 standing committees. I will call upon the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds. Secretary.
The Building and Grounds Committee met on Monday, March 9th. James Cleveland, Superintendent of Building and Grounds, discussed the 2020 Master Plan and Resolution 169-170 and Resolution 215 under Wave Rule 13.2, all of which have been placed on the agenda upon recommendation of the committee. For the 2020 calendar year, the committee is recommending completion of the project to replace the government center roof. The next Building and Grounds Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 13th at 4:30 p.m. End of report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Also, there was an email that went out today, I don't know if it went to everybody, regarding Pyrex spray for buildings and grounds that Jim Cleveland is supplying, I think, to all the offices or the employees. How's that work?
It's gonna be supplied to all the offices so they can wipe down the surfaces in the office to disinfect.
Okay, so they'll have their own, personal bottle. Okay.
You can apply it as frequently as they wish.
Anything else on that, Francis?
No, that's it.
Okay. Children and Family Services, Mr. Potter.
The Children and Family Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolution 171 through 173 have been pulled and placed on the agenda for the recommendation of the committee. The next Children and Family Services Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 17th at 5:15 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Economic Development, County Operations, Legislature Road.
Yes, sir. The Economic Development and County Operations Committee met Tuesday, March 10th. Dave Randall, the Information Technology Director, discussed resolution number 174. Rodney Brown, the Deputy County Administrator, discussed resolutions 175 through 180. And there was also a discussion of the tobacco settlement policy to help better manage requests for future funding. All resolutions recommended by the committee have been placed on tonight's agenda. And the next Economic Development and County Operations Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 14th at 5 p.m. End report.
Thank you very much. Finance, Mr. Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee met Wednesday, March 4th. Kimberly Davis, the County Treasurer, discussed 2020 county tax installments, correction of errors report, 2020 interim foreclosure, sales tax, and resolution 181, which has been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 1st at 6:15 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Health, Legislator Waldron.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Health Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions 182 through 185 have been pulled and placed on the agenda as a result of the committee's recommendation. Our next Health Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, April 7th at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you. Human Services, Legislator Conroe.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Human Services Committee met March 4th. Darlene Collins, the Office for the Aging Director, discussed resolutions 186 and 187. Wendy Bishop, Nursing Home Director, presented resolution 188. All resolutions have been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. Steve Bowman, the Director of the Veterans Services Agency, discussed monthly statistics, his meeting with state legislators, his meeting with the New York State Division of Veteran Services, and updates on the VA Health Clinic in Plattsburgh. The next Human Services Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 1st at 5:15.
Thank you, sir. Personnel, Legislator Henry. The Personnel Committee met March 2nd and reviewed 18 personnel items. There are 14 resolutions on tonight's agenda that reflect the committee's recommendations. A couple of the most important items, there was a creation of a permanent full-time social welfare examiner position at DSS, as the federal government have changed the waiver requirements, you might be familiar with that, for able-bodied adults without dependents, which now requires individuals to meet SNAP work requirements prior to being eligible for benefits. The position is 100% funded through the Food Stamp and Medicaid Administration. The change in salary placement of a permanent full-time Chief Assistant Public Defender from grade 13 step 6 to grade 13 step 8. 100% of that is funded through the Indigent Legal Services Plan Enhancement Grant. There was creation of a permanent full-time Assistant Public Defender position, 100% funded through Indigent Legal Services Plan Enhancement Grant. And then there was finally a creation of a permanent full-time senior typist position to train with current incumbent for 1 month prior to retirement. There's no new FTE here. It's an overlap, right, Rodney? That's correct. The next Personnel Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 6th at 4 p.m. Plattsburgh International Airport, Legislator Hall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Plattsburgh International Airport Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolution 203 has been placed on the agenda as a result of the recommendation of the committee. The next Plattsburgh International Airport Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 25th at 4 p.m. Before I end the report, just a reminder to everyone, it'll be going out in your mail, but April 8th is a regular session meeting. We will have a special airport meeting that night at 4 o'clock. Jack Penning, our consultant, will be here to bring us up to date and to let us know what's going on with new flights. I'm inviting all the other legislators, not just the airport committee. That's April 8th at 4 o'clock. We will have a special meeting with Jack Penning. End the report.
Thank you. Public Safety, Mr. Castine.
The Public Safety Committee met Monday, March 9th. Russell Haig, the Stop DWI Coordinator, discussed resolutions 204 through 206. Kelly Donahue, the Assistant Emergency Services Director, discussed resolutions 207 and 208. All resolutions have been placed on the agenda upon recommendation of the committee. Chad Deans, the County Coroner, provided an update on funeral home pickup fees. Several funeral home directors were present to discuss the issue and request an increase in funding, which has been, sounds like a couple of decades since it's been increased. The committee has requested additional information from the staff and will continue to discuss the matter. Public Safety Committee, the next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 13th at 6:15 p.m. However, I'm working to move that meeting to the first Monday instead of the second Monday, so it won't conflict with the Village of Champlain's monthly meeting. And that's my end of the report.
Thank you. Transportation, Mr. Day.
The Transportation Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions 209 through 211 have been pulled and placed on the agenda on the committee's recommendation. And the next Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 13th at 5:15. End of report.
Thank you. Liaison reports. Board of Health, that's my report, and I would ask John Canosa to just give us a 2-minute or less overview of the Board of Health, where we're at there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Our last Board of Health meeting was on February 10th. During that meeting, as you can understand, as things started ramping up at the end of January, beginning of February, with the coronavirus, COVID-19, the majority of that meeting was included discussion of the work that we're doing with our local partners, with the hospital, with SUNY. I could go on with the school systems all around, and how we're working with them to get out appropriate messaging for preventative care, preventative maintenance, cleaning of the buildings, everything under the sun that you could name, we're working with. So we've been pretty, I would say, very successful in meeting those objectives that we identify for ourselves as well as our partners. So, as a matter of fact, today we did have a CMAC meeting where we met with, including Board of Health representatives that were there, multi-agency coordinating committee. We all met and discussed a number of these things. So the Board of Health has been intimately involved in this matter, as well as legislative members, Rodney, Mike Searle, and we've talked about this. So we're trying to coordinate all efforts on this matter with not only the Board of Health, but you members as well. At the last Board of Health meeting, we also had a little bit of a discussion on a special recognition for Mandy Stain, her preparation of the community health assessment report that was just completed as of the end of January. So that was about it.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Chamber of Commerce, Legislator Rosenquist.
So we had our Strategic Tourism Planning Committee meeting last week, just a general update, nothing major. And then the next meeting is next month.
Community Services Board.
Community Services Board has not met since the last meeting. The next meeting is Tuesday, March 24th at 4:30.
Okay. Cooperative Extension, Mr. Timmons.
Our monthly meeting will be next Tuesday, but just an update, I did go to Food from the Farm this past Saturday, and I was there a little after 2 o'clock when it opened. I would say there was probably a couple of hundred people there already. So I think they had a pretty good day. I haven't gotten numbers of what they finalized out at, but I think it was another good event. And you know, a lot of what we have in the North Country to try to taste, to sample, and it was a good day.
Excellent. Discipline Review, we had nothing at Discipline Review. There was no need for us to meet. Grievance Committee, the same. We had no issues coming before the Grievance Committee. There's no report there. Inter-county as well.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, our inter-county meeting was canceled in Hamilton County due to the blizzard last week and a half ago.
Okay. Jury Board, Mr. Dane. No report there.
No,
LCLG Regional Planning Board as well.
I was in Lake George yesterday for a loan committee meeting, and we did approve a loan for a small business, and our regular meeting will be in April 7th, I believe it is.
Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have anything for NICO when you were down there?
There's a lot of information from
Okay.
NICO, so I would encourage maybe next time one more person help me gather all the information. There's a lot of resources that are untapped by this county. Yeah, so it was time well spent. We did get updates from Schumer. Of course, the coronavirus was happening in the middle of it, so a lot of focus was on that, and we met with FEMA and what their response was going to be. A lot of information at that meeting.
You were only there 10 minutes. I saw you made the video highlights.
I know, I walked into that when they asked me to do a video for them, so I took one for the team.
Well, that was good. Thank you very much. Soil and Water, Mr. Perrier, Mr. Timmons.
No, we meet next Thursday night.
Workforce Development Board, Mr. Rosenbus.
Our quarterly meeting is on Friday morning.
Staff member reports, Ms. Kelleher.
Yes, I received notice today that the New York State opioid litigation that was supposed to start in Sussex County in 2 weeks has been postponed, pushed back to May 1st as a result of the COVID virus, is that what it's called? And then, Rodney, do you want me to talk about the two resolutions that are on
Sure, that we discussed,
So yesterday, Mr. Henry, Mr. Brown, Mr. Canoza, Ms. Kinlum, and myself met to talk about some, employment-related issues. And so there are two resolutions, 216 and 217, that have been added to the agenda. The first is to, at Mr. Canoza's request, to provide that public health nurses can have on-call pay. It's not contained in the contract at this time, so he asked for that, and we thought that it would make a lot of sense to expedite that and put that in front of you tonight. And then the second thing is we reviewed the collective bargaining agreement for the CSEA general unit. There is quarantine language in that, and but it does require legislative approval. So what we're asking in resolution 217 is that the legislature delegate its authority to the county administrator to approve requests for quarantine. And the requirement is that the Board of Health would have to certify the individual employee's quarantine in order to get that contractual benefit. So those are the two added resolutions that are on here tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
I have nothing, but we have asked Mr. Canoza and Airport Director Christopher Craig to be here tonight to discuss respectively the coronavirus issue as well as an incident that occurred at the airport this morning.
Okay, John, you want to go first?
Sure. I provided you with copies of a chronology, a couple-page chronology showing the work that we've been doing since the real active start of the coronavirus or the COVID-19 matter started on February 1st during that weekend, where we received 2 required conference calls from the State Department of Health, both on Saturday and Sunday. That was really the starting point for this whole matter. But since that time, as you can see from the chronology, we've really done a lot of public engagement, outreach, working to involve, as I mentioned before, our partners in the work that we're doing. We're all one community, we gotta work together, and the hospital, SUNY, our medical providers are a very important part of that, so that's reflected in here. I can report to you today that we had some testing done. We were very fortunate to find out that 4 tests just recently done came back negative, so that's a good thing at this particular point. And also, we had been working with, for the last week, SUNY Plattsburgh, the president, Dr. Kamalo, who serves at the health center, on the potential closure or suspension of returning from spring break, which is coming up in the next week for students, just to give it some more time. And the president and his staff at SUNY Plattsburgh were very cooperative in working with us. Not only that, they had some good ideas of their own on doing distant learning on their campus, such that the kids did not have to return to school. So while SUNY Plattsburgh was working so hard to make that happen, today, both the president of SUNY Plattsburgh and myself learned that the governor leapfrogged over them and said, "Nope, we're closing all the SUNY schools, all SUNY schools." So that's been impacted, effective, I guess, this week, as I understand. So
It's effective on the 19th, sorry.
19th, this Friday, I think. Yes, this week.
It's at the end of spring break, so it'll
Correct.
be next
Right.
Friday, next
Yeah.
Thursday. And from my understanding is SUNY Housing is going to be open, but classes are going to be held online.
Correct. Classes held online, and any students that are required, as per the SUNY president, that are still required to stay on campus or have nowhere else to go, the campuses will take care of those kids on campus. So that's good. That pretty much rounds it out and everything like that. The other handout that I provided to you is basically some of the messaging that we've been getting out to our public entities. And I can go down the list if you'd like. I'll just give you a sampling. First, we always start with food services. We got over 500 restaurants in the county. Temporary residences, hotels, motels, you name it. Working with the school district, SUNY, and the hospital, getting signs put up to encourage people, remind people. It's a chronic, constant reminder to tell them, wash your hands, stay away from sick people, please don't come to work ill. And we're getting to the point now where we're looking more at social distancing, pushing in that direction. such that you want to try to avoid those large mass gathering events that are typical coming up in the spring and in the summer every year that we're going to have. Unfortunately, this COVID-19 is upon us, so social distancing, which has been proven to work well before my time, 100 years ago, Spanish flu, it worked in St. Louis or Philadelphia, I can't recall which one. One of the two cities did enact social distancing, and it worked to curb the numbers of impacted people. So that's what we're looking at doing now. We are talking with not only our children's camps that we regulate, Clinton County, but also all types of functions that will be held in the county for the next upcoming 6 months. That's what we're looking at. So talking to them, looking at them, and seeing when is your last drop dead date that you could possibly, if you had to cancel this, when you would need to cancel this. Okay, so we're playing this, I guess the key message here is we're playing this day by day, week to week. And the biggest message that I can provide as Director of Public Health is the governor, the president are saying don't panic, that's good. However, the key message is stop and think. What do I need to do as a family, a father, a mother, or a manager at work for my family, and what do I need to do for my workers? What can I do to help them to prepare to be ready? If it does come here and people have to be either on sick time, sick at home, or if they have to care for a loved one, how can they best do that while maintaining some sort of isolation from the people? And in closing, the final message on this is our doctors and our hospitals are really, really trying hard to keep anyone with flu or flu-like symptoms that mirror the COVID-19 from entering their facilities for obvious reasons, cross-contamination of those facilities. So the message is, if you feel this sick, fever, call your doctor. Can't get a hold of your doctor, call the health department. We'll give you guidance to work in the direction. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you're,
John,
go ahead.
yes, were the tests done at the hospital?
The tests were sent out. No, the tests were taken. The samples, which can be taken in the nasal cavity and the oral cavity of the mouth, swab, are sent down currently to Wadsworth. We're still awaiting test kits delivered here. So we still have the ability to take samples for testing, and those were taken yesterday. So that's a pretty good turnaround, you have to admit, even though you got to send them down. Yeah. So Wadsworth is a great lab down in Albany, so we use them all the time for a lot of different things, including our rabies cases, animal bites. So.
And if I could jump in, what we learned yesterday in our meeting is that work is done by the public health nurses going out to people's homes. It's not done at the hospital to isolate them.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. The collection of samples, yeah. On that same subject matter, the hospital trying not to cross-contaminate the hospital, the medical providers' offices, the health department offices. The hospital is working on 2 possible plans right now, including drive-by sample collection. You don't even have to get out of your car. Swab of the mouth or a nasal cavity, or a separate trailer. We're really trying to focus. We don't want to contaminate mother hospital, mother health department, mother offices where people go for other ailments. You know, that's really the key here. So it's a balancing act, you know, so. Any other questions on this, man?
No. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add that as your representative here for the county, I've been in a number of meetings with John and others. Every day I'm on a conference call with representatives from the state of New York in the counties in our area where we talk about issues like this. And I can tell you that you can be confident, you can be proud of our Clinton County Health Department. They're doing a great job. They're dedicated, they're engaged, and they're as proactive as you can possibly be. So you never know what's going to happen, but they are doing more than the best they can. They're doing a good job. Thank you very much for that. Chris?
Good evening. I just want to piggyback on what John just talked about, coronavirus, and just give you a real quick snapshot of what's going on, what we're doing at the airport in response to the outbreak. We've been in constant coordination with the health department, been monitoring the CDC website. We've received signage to put up from the health department. We've added additional hand sanitizer dispensers around the airport, put the signage up in conjunction with those to make sure that they're out, give the public maximum exposure to the ability to keep their hands clean. and just reinforce, what CDC is putting out there as far as keeping, covering your mouth, staying home if you're sick, those types of actions, precautionary actions. We put some videos up, also just as message reinforcement. We've got the page up on the website, and we continue to again communicate with the health department. We've reviewed our plans for communicable disease, and as we get guidance, we're reviewing it and incorporating it as applicable. We were at the CMAC meeting this morning and continue to coordinate with our other local, state, federal partners. Was on a conference call with TSA this morning with Federal Security Director for upstate New York. He updated us on TSA's actions during this event, and we're again in communication with all of our partners out of the airport. Just as an awareness, March has historically been our busiest month for flights. On average, over the last few years, we've had anywhere from 30 to 40,000 people pass through the terminal during the month of March, coming or going. We haven't had any reports, I haven't received anything from the airlines as far as reductions in service. I have been in communication with all 3 airlines, and as of now, they're not forecasting any reductions. Of course, that could change. We have noticed a decrease in passenger traffic as a result of this, but that is across the industry, not just unique to the airport. People are making decisions on whether to travel or not based on their own personal, their personal needs, their personal requirements, whether it's essential, whether it's not essential, their health concerns. So we are doing what we need to do out there, making every effort to keep it safe and secure for traveling public. The airport's operating under normal conditions, and if anything changes, I will certainly let all of you folks know. Regarding the incident today, I'm sure as most of you know, this morning we had one of our United Express flights, United Flight 5076 that goes to Washington Dulles. They were getting ready to depart for a reason as yet to be determined. The aircraft moved forward. It impacted one of the jet bridges, and the aircraft suffered damage to one of its windows. There was no damage to the jet bridge. Airport firefighters responded, South Plattsburgh Fire Department responded, Clinton County Sheriff's Department responded. I want to say that the fire department, the sheriff's department, South Plattsburgh, we trained for these events, and they did exactly what we trained to do, and I have to commend them for their actions in this event and then a follow-on event later in the day. They're true professionals, and they are a true asset to that airport and the community. I've been in contact with the airline regarding SkyWest regarding this incident since early this morning, and we did subsequently get approval to move the aircraft because it is under investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board. We did get approval from them to relocate the aircraft because it was blocking 2 of the gates and we had flights going out. In the process of moving the aircraft, we're going to relocate it down to one of the hangars. While they were towing the aircraft, there was a fire on the aircraft. Airport firefighters again responded. South Plattsburgh Fire Department responded. Clinton County Sheriff's Department responded. The fire was put out. They controlled the situation. There was some damage to the aircraft. Again, under investigation by the NTSB. We're fortunate that there were some minor injuries in the fire, but nothing that required hospitalization or going to the hospital. We're fortunate in that regard that there was nothing serious. Again, ongoing communication with SkyWest with their corporate communications. They have been very pleased with our response to this event, and it's been pretty much an all-day event. It is under investigation, and as I get more information, I will share it with you as appropriate and applicable. But I have been in contact with the news media. I've spoken to several news organizations. I've given them what information I'm able to give them, and beyond that, I've asked that I've been asked by SkyWest to refer all media requests to their corporate communications, which I've shared that information with the news media. So, but again, I want to thank and commend the first responders, the firefighters, the sheriff's department, South Plattsburgh, for their efforts, because, you know, they again, like I said, we train for this, they train for this, and this is where the training, they're my insurance policy. I never want to use them, but when I need them, I want them to be there, and this is one of those instances where I need them, and they were there, so. Any questions?
Chris, would it be appropriate, I know the answer, but would it be appropriate to tell the rest of the legislators the minor injuries to the people that got injured, so they're not worried about who it is or where?
There were two SkyWest employees that were on the aircraft. They were conducting, you know, they were towing the aircraft. They were what's called riding the brakes in the aircraft. You know, as part of the towing operation, when the fire broke out, they were on the aircraft. They egressed the aircraft, but in the process of egressing the aircraft, they had some minor burns. Nothing that required mainly that their hair was singed. Some of their clothes was burned. Extremely fortunate that they were not more seriously injured.
Anything else? Do you know the original affair?
That is all under investigation.
I'm flying out tomorrow and I got an email from Allegiant indicating that I could make travel plans changes without any cost.
That's correct. Going back to my earlier discussion on the coronavirus, the airlines have implemented a number of programs as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus, waiving change fees, you know, of the like. Part of what our messaging has been is if you have questions about your particular travel plans, contact the airline. If you go out to the website, there's to our website, the airport website, on the page that we've established, there are links to the airlines that have the respective, you know, what they're offering in terms of waivers and rescheduling.
Anything more?
All right, thank you, sir. Before voting on the resolutions, I want to note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based in large part on the recommendations of the committees. Mr. Brown, can you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Yes, resolution number 169, authorizing contract with Architectural and Engineering Design Associates, PCADA, Buildings and Grounds.
Motion, Mr. Perrier, second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 170, authorizing contract with KAS Environmental Science and Engineering, Buildings and Grounds.
Motion, Mr. Perrier, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 171, authorizing contract with Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 125 Social Services.
Motion, Mr. Potiker, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 172, authorizing supervision and treatment services for juveniles, plan, funds, application, and acceptance, social services.
Motion, Mr. Potiker, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 173, authorizing contract with Youth Advocate Programs, Inc., Social Services.
Motion, Mr. Potiker, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 174, authorizing contract amendment with Prime Link, Inc., Information Technology.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perrier?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 175, designating Clinton County Planning Director as Fair Housing Officer for Clinton County Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Mr. Perrier. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 176, designating Clinton County Planning Director as Americans with Disabilities Act ADA Coordinator for Clinton County Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Mr. Potiker. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 177, designating Clinton County Planning Director as Title VI Coordinator for Clinton County Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Ms. Waldron. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it appears that the workload for the county planner is increasing a great deal.
It is, he's not getting much help.
And you're going to be retiring, you're leaving this to your...
This is a good timing, I think.
I know you've done it before.
Yeah, all we're doing is changing it from my name to my title, so it'll be carried on by someone else.
Not as well,
I'll leave that up to you.
though. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 178, designate the Clinton County Planning Director as Hazard Mitigation Coordinator for Clinton County Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 179, authorizing the sale of property at the former Clinton County Airport. Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Rosenquist, second, Mr. Perrier. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 180, approving appointments to the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board. Legislature.
5-4, Mr. Rose, or 5-5, Mr.
Yes,
Rosenquist. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 181, authorizing the county treasurer to transfer funds from the contingent fund to the airport budget, Plattsburgh International Airport.
Motion, Mr. Timmons, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 182, authorizing contracts with various veterinary offices, health department.
Motion, Ms. Waldron, second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 183, authorizing Adirondack Health Institute, Inc. grant extension, mental health and addiction services.
Motion, Ms. Waldron, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 184, authorizing Adirondack Health Institute, Inc. grant extension, mental health and addiction services.
Motion, Ms. Waldron, second, Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 185, authorizing contract with St. Lawrence Psychiatric Center, mental health and addiction services.
Motion, Ms. Waldron, second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 186, authorizing contract with Joint Council for Economic Opportunity, JCEO, Office for the Aging.
Motion, Mr. Conroy, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 187, authorizing out-of-state travel, Office for the Aging.
Motion, Mr. Conroy, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 188, authorizing payment of membership dues, nursing home.
Motion, Mr. Conroy, second, Mr. Perrier. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Berrigan?
Yeah.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 189, approving backfill of a permanent full-time motor vehicle license clerk position, PCN 2121, County Clerk's Office.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 190, approving creation of a permanent full-time social welfare examiner position, PCN to be determined, social services.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 191, approving backfill of a permanent full-time employment and training assistant position, PCN 3211, social services.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 192, approving change in salary step placement of a permanent full-time chief assistant public defender position, PCN 4161, Public Defender's Office.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 193, approving creation of a permanent full-time assistant public defender position, PCN to be determined, Public Defender's Office.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 194, approving creation of a permanent full-time senior typist position, PCN to be determined, nursing home.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 195, approving backfill of a permanent full-time staff nurse position, PCN 2878, nursing home.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 196, approving backfill of a permanent full-time licensed practical nurse position, PCN 3450, nursing home.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 197, approving backfill of a permanent full-time nurse's aide position, PCN 2637, nursing home.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 198, approving backfill of a permanent full-time probation officer 1 position, PCN 2732, probation department.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 199, approving backfill of a permanent full-time court referral specialist position, PCN 3445, probation department.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 200, approving backfill of a permanent full-time motor equipment operator 1 position, PCN 3578, highway department.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 201, approving backfill of a permanent part-time special patrol officer position, PCN 4068, sheriff's department.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 202, approving backfill of a permanent part-time registered professional nurse position, PCN 3971, sheriff's department.
Motion, Mr. Henry, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 203, authorizing change orders 51 through 54 with Murnane Building Contractors, Inc., Plattsburgh International Airport.
Motion, Mr. Hall, second, Mr. Perrier. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 204, authorizing payment of membership dues, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, Mr. Castine, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 205, authorizing fiscal year 2020 community-oriented policy, policing services, hiring program, funding, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, Mr. Castine, second, Mr. Hall. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 206, approving appointment to the Clinton County Stop DWI Advisory Committee, Stop DWI Traffic Safety.
Mr. Hall, Mr. Castine, 5-5.
Yes.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 207, authorizing contract with C3 Pathways Emergency Services.
Motion, Mr. Castine, second, Mr. Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 208, authorizing contract with J. Hogan Refrigeration and Mechanical, Inc., Emergency Services.
Motion, Mr. Castine, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 209, authorizing modernization and enhancement supplemental program grant acceptance, Clinton County Public Transit.
Motion, Mr. Dane, second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion. Roll call.
Legislator Perry?
Yes.
Legislator Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 210, authorizing an easement agreement with New York State Electric and Gas Corporation relative to the replacement of the Harney Bridge road bridge over Saranac River, bin 335770, Highway Department.
Motion, Mr. Dane, second, Mr. Potiker. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Resolution 211, authorizing state and municipal facilities capital program grant application and acceptance, Highway Department.
Motion, Mr. Dane, second, Mr. Timmons. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 212, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Child Advocacy Center grant program, District Attorney's Office.
Motion, Mr. Timmons, second, Mr. Castine. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Resolution 213, authorizing the county treasurer to establish petty cash account, mental health and addiction services.
Motion, Mr. Timmons, second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Resolution 214, authorizing the county treasurer to reappropriate 2019 funds for various accounts, Treasurer's Office.
Motion, Mr. Timmons, second, Mr. Dane. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
What is this, 40 pages?
And I didn't get back to you, Mr. Timmons. Yes, we usually do have a number of these at this time each year.
That was carried, by the way. We're at 13-2 now.
Yes, we are.
May I have a motion to waive Rule 13-2? Move. I have a motion, may I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Rob. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, 13-2.
Resolution 215, authorizing contract amendment and extension with Architectural and Engineering Design Associates, PC, AEDA, Buildings and Grounds.
Motion, Mr. Perrier. Second, Mr. Conroy. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Resolution 216, approving on-call payment for Healthcare Services Division staff for Coronavirus Global Outbreak Health Department.
Motion, Mr. Henry. I'll need a second for this. I have a second by Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion? Roll call.
Legislator Perry.
Yes.
Legislator Hall.
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 217, authorizing chairperson to assign the county administrator or his designee for approval of paid leave during quarantine, Legislature.
Motion, Mr. Henry. I need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Rosenquist. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's all we got.
That's big. Does anyone have any further business to come before the legislature? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have something further.
I'm sorry.
I have something further.
Oh, go ahead. Sure.
I've gotten 2 calls from my constituents from Trout Unlimited about the dam at Imperial Mill. They both said to me that they have been in contact with the city of Plattsburgh. They have a letter from the city and a letter from the town, both supporting removing the dam, and they want to send it into the DEC. And they came here and addressed us, and myself, for one, was under the impression that we all agreed that it was the thing to do. They, like I said, they have a letter from the city, they have a letter from the town of Plattsburgh supporting removing that dam for good reasons, for safety reasons. And they wanted to know where we're at and why we haven't acted on this and sent a letter with it. I contacted Rodney, and Rodney told me he had the resolution on here, and that legislator Rosenquist had asked to have it removed. So where are we at with this?
So to give everybody a brief overview, we had one group present their arguments for the removal of that dam. Last October, the DEC, along with other state agencies for wildlife restoration, met, created a 30% plan, 30% engineering plan for that dam. They the DEC and the state feel like there is no reason to pull the dam down. Rather than putting forth a resolution before this board that had a one-sided argument, I felt it prudent for us to be a little bit more educated in making a decision on whether or not we should pull the dam down. The idea is that right now I'm reaching out to the DEC and all those other members who put together that 30% engineering plan to come and present to the legislature so that we can make an informed decision, having both sides of the argument and not just one side of the argument.
Did DEC say why they would not want to take the dam down? Usually they want to open up all the streams. You're saying that they didn't want to take it down?
Correct, and they put together that engineering plan and sent it out, and I can provide that to everybody else as well, but at the end of the day, I think our role is to be educated before we just make a one-sided decision. And I'll invite all the players in to present their sides, and then we can make some decision based on that information.
Could you make sure we get provided with any information that you do get in the meantime?
Absolutely, absolutely.
When will that be?
I'm looking at the next Economic Development County Ops meeting to have that presentation done.
At the meeting, Chris?
Yes, at the meeting.
At the economic development?
Correct.
Now, is there, I'm trying to remember, we talked about this a couple of times. Is there a drop dead date on that, when they needed it by? Does anybody?
I don't think so. They're waiting on this to submit. They've got everything that they need to submit a request to DC for removal of the dam. They're waiting on this because they think this would strengthen their package. So
My question is if the city of Plattsburgh wants it down, and the town of Plattsburgh wants it down, why are we against it?
Because the state says they don't want
Well,
it.
but that's, we can send our letter of recommendation along with the city rep, helping the city and the town. Well, I understand that, but then the DEC can refuse it anyways.
Well,
So what difference does it matter?
because I would rather make an informed decision rather than just say this person did that and this person stood in front of us and said we should do it. It's a one-sided argument.
Well, it could still be voted in this body though, right?
Correct.
Well, it'll, I assume, it'll go to Chris's committee, it will come out of there, it will come here. Yes, you can vote on that committee, in this body. Theoretically, you could vote on it right now, if that's what you wanted to do. I think I have made it clear to everyone that I like to see these things come through the committees. I like to have the chairman look at these and get their opinion when they come out of committees. On the other hand, they can't be bottled up in committees forever. I mean, we do have a duty to get these things done as quickly as we can. I don't know how long they've been in that committee, I have no idea.
7 weeks ago that these guys came here.
There was a
7 weeks ago these gentlemen came here.
I pulled the resolution from the last meeting, not the one just happened, but from the last one before.
the February meeting.
The February meeting, correct.
But it's going to be on the next one.
My invitation was sent out to have them come and present at the next meeting.
Well, I think we owe it.
And we can have the resolution on the agenda for the next meeting.
Is that,
That's fair enough.
okay? Anything else from anybody? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Have a motion? Second. Have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Bishop.
See that, Mark? It's only 6:20.